And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Mike Prince Show here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. We know it is just about football season, or should we say it is football season. And with that, a new year is upon us, and we know that there are some new rule changes. And I am so fortunate to have on the line with us right now, and I can't believe that he's about to start year number 4, but the head official for football in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, none other than Mr. Eddie Kelly. How you doing today, sir?
Doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for making yourself available, man. And 4 years, man. Where did the time go?
It doesn't wait on us, Mike.
That's for sure.
It does not wait.
Wow. I mean, it seemed like you just took over this thing not long ago, but as you say, time does not wait. And with that, rules continue to change. This game is steadily evolving, and it's evolving for safety manners and more excitement to be added to the game. And I'm pretty sure that our listeners who look forward to this is one of our best and favorite segments throughout the year, is to hear the upgrades and the changes that are coming in. And you've become somewhat of at least an open mic local legend, sir. And I guess we're looking forward to what is to lie here for the 2022 season.
Well, that's great, Mike, and I appreciate it. And we do most of the rule changes for safety. And one of our biggest changes coming up this year is now that players cannot block players low outside of the tackle box. And when we say the tackle box, we all know we got a center, 2 guards, and 2 tackles on the majority of plays. Those 2 tackles are the furthest people outside that can block low. And when we say block low, that means below the waist. On their initial charge, when they're blocking the defensive lineman, or the other way around, if the defensive lineman is trying to block them, they can do it within that initial charge, 1 yard from the ball, in front of the ball for the defense and the offense. Now, it does go all the way back to the end zone for those in the backfield. So majority of our teams playing shotgun, or if he's under center, a back in the backfield can block a player low as long as he sees him in front. We know we get blitzing linebackers, or somebody breaks contain and rushing up at the quarterback. That running back can block him low legally, as long as the ball is inside of those 2 tackles. If the ball gets outside of those tackles, then there's no blocking low. And you can still see some people block and go down, which means if they start at the waist and then that block goes down and ends up low, that is legal. But he cannot start below the waist to be legal. Wide receivers outside or sprint out pass, they cannot block below the waist. They have to start at the waist or higher.
Wow. Well, it means that these young men are going to have to hit that weight room and stay on a strict diet to keep their strength geared up, because in most cases back in the day, if you had a bigger opponent, you were taught to go low to even out the balance of the attack. But now they're going to have to redirect their plans of attack these days.
Yes, they are. They are. And if I've heard that once from coaches, I've heard it 100 times, that you got to get in the weight room now.
You got to get in the weight room. Wow. Well, of course, the game is moving so fast, and it's become a lot more technical assisted as far as making sure that you get it right. Because, you know, if it's especially against your team, it was that call that you guys missed that caused my team to lose, right? It's not that the team was performing bad. It's always going to be on the officials. What, if anything, has been in place to further ensure that you get the plays called right?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike, and we understand. We can be the scapegoat a lot. You got to blame it on somebody.
Hey, you got to blame it on the stripes, right? That's why y'all wear those stripes, so you can be picked out.
And you don't want to say the other team is better than you. You want to say that the officials might have cost you the game. And we work extremely hard not to have that situation happen. And, you know, there's a human element along with the coaches and the players and the officials. you know. And we're man enough to admit it if we kick one, you know. And we're also man enough to admit it when we right, and we scream to the mountaintops when we right, you know. But on that end of it, which a lot of the, I guess you say, some of our fans don't realize, is that we don't just show up and call the game. We've been in camps and studying with study groups, Zoom calls, crew calls, and all of that, and Zooming and all of that, probably since the end of the national championship game. And we work at it just like the players work at it. And we're fortunate enough that we're supplying, I would estimate 85 to 90% of black officials in your bigger leagues. And when I say bigger leagues, we're in the football college playoff, or the FCS. And when you see them playing the national championship game, they're in the FBS. And for those mid-majors, your Conference USAs, your Sun Belts, and conferences like that. And then you got the Power Fives with the Big 12, the Pac-12, the SEC, the Big 10, and the ACC. We're supplying probably 85 to 90% of those black officials that you see there. And this season alone, we had 2 officials that move up to the Power Fives, and we had about 6 that moved up to the mid-majors. So the guys are doing some things right, you know, which means that they're getting moved to the next level. Kind of like if you look at your team, if you have a good offensive or defensive coordinator and he's doing a great job, then he can move up to the next level, which means more pay, basically, you know. And what we're trying to get at in the SWAC is to make sure that our guys are ready for that. And hopefully we can move up as a conference, that the only time our guys leave us is when they go to a Power 5. So we're working on some things and making our brand the best that we possibly can. And we want to work hard at giving you the best call game that we can. Now, on that other foot, that means we got 7 to 8 new guys that are coming in from Division III, Division II, college level, and we got to get them up to speed to call SWAC ball, because we're one of the best branded football leagues in the world, to me, and to a lot of other people too. Because you look at it, our games are on TV with ESPN or streaming or other channels every game, I would say. Out of our 65 games or so, I would bet you that 60 to 63 of them will be on somebody's broadcast. So we got to call the TV, and we're holding them to a higher standard. And for the majority of the time, we're making it happen.
Yes, sir. Now, with that increase of exposure and coverage that you just mentioned, as you say, as you go up, the stakes go up. Is there anything that the SWAC is looking at as far as centralizing? And I know this is going to seem like apples to oranges, but the way the NFL has it set up, on these televised games, they get a questionable call, they go to New York. Is there anything in the future to go to, let's say, in this case, Birmingham is the headquarters for the SWAC, and they say, we're going to go to Birmingham right now and hear from Ed Kelly, head officials, on what this projected call could be. Is there anything like that being lined up?
It will come with time, Mike. Basically, you're talking about a command center. And the only conferences with command centers are your Power Fives that I mentioned, the Pac-12, the Big 12, the SEC, ACC, and the Big 10, because that costs an awful lot of money. Now, in the SWAC, my officials say we do have a command center, because I'm watching 3 or 4 games on a Saturday at home. I've got a setup where I've got TVs to watch those games, and I try to stay ahead of things. And my replay people are on the line with me every time that we have a stoppage in the game. So, in a way, we kind of do. And then, you know, any game that's a individual game, like a Thursday night or Friday night or a Sunday game, I'll be at those personally. But on Saturdays, the Commissioner McCullen, and I work out a deal where I can try to see as many games as possible on that given Saturday. And some Saturdays I can start at 11 o'clock a.m. and go all the way to 12 p.m. for those games to finish. And it's a good thing because if I'm at one game, but there are 2 or 3 other games going in other cities, then I'm kind of behind the eight ball as to what's happening. So, again, with all of our games being televised and streamed, it gives me that opportunity to stay on top of the games and to try to be there, not in person, but I'm only probably 3 to 4 seconds behind the live feed. So I'm able to see what's going on if we have a major problem with the officiating.
Okay. Well, that is always encouraging to know that things keep going higher and higher. And it's just exciting, man, with everything that's going on, the streaming opportunities, the expansion of the conference, the technical enhancement of the league as a whole. Now, it does make your job a little bit easier, and it also makes it a little bit challenging, too, at the same time, though, right?
Most definitely. You know, I tell my guys that our biggest thing is we want to focus, concentrate, and communicate at all times. And I tell them, you can't tell me you can't do that for one game, and I'm doing it for 3. So, you know, they kind of get it, you know. But our young men and young ladies are working very hard at getting it right. And of course, we know we're going to miss some, and some of them won't be right. But we're going to work as hard as we can to eliminate as much as that is possible.
Absolutely. Now, I know we're talking about conference games right now, but let's just say you have a SWAC non-conference game and they are the host team. Are you guys involved with that operation as far as the officiating, or is that kind of like a random crew that comes in?
You know, majority of our games, let's just take the Southwestern Conference against the SWAC. If that game is at our place, like I think, for instance, Prairie View is playing in Carter,
yes, sir,
then we will officiate that game. But I think last year Prairie View went there, and the Southland called the game. So when we're hosting them, we have the game.
Okay, and that's if that happens to be on a Saturday or whatnot, that'll be part of your quote-unquote command station setup where you can have hands on deck and eyes on deck for that situation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Now, once again, we're talking with Eddie Kelly, head official of football for the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and we talked about the blocking rules. Are there any other new wrinkles that will be added to the rule book for the fall 22 season, sir?
Yeah, there'll be a few other ones. We have holding against the defense that in the past, as if, let's just say, it was 1st and 15 where a team may have had a false start or something. And if there was holding on the defense, we would make it 1st and 5. Whereas, you know, it would only be a 10-yard penalty. This year, that holding is going to carry an automatic first down. So instead of being 1st and 5, now it's going to be 1st and 10 with that 10 yards. And a few other little wrinkles, like if the ball is thrown to an ineligible receiver, like say a tackle catches a pass, that's going to have a 5-yard penalty and a loss of down.
Wow.
So, yeah. Well, we had some problems in some of the bowl games, and that's some of the things that come up when we look over those rules. And basically, it's not officials. The coaches make these changes in the rule.
Okay.
So we just really apply the rules, but it's a panel of coaches across the nation that make up these new rules. Officials don't. There's normally, of course, Steve Shaw, the national coordinator official, is on that panel, but the rest of the people on there are coaches, and they come up with these rules.
Okay. Now, I want to go back just for a second, if we could. Defensive holding.
Okay.
I can somewhat sort out what offensive holding is. What would be considered defensive holding, and how do you determine if it's a hold and play during live action, or is it just part of the internal combat? And I'm thinking about offense and defensive line, because they're pulling on each other at all times, what will be determined as defensive holding?
Great question. What we get with a lot of our defensive holding is you get a good nose guard or a good tackle that's intelligent. And if he's head up, say the nose guard is head up with the center, and he sees that the left guard or the right guard is pulling to try to get up on his linebacker, he will grab him and hold him and keep him from getting up on that linebacker. So basically, he's tying up two players, but he's holding one of those players to keep him from getting to the second level to get to his linebacker. And that's where we get a lot of it on the defensive line. And some of them are taught to do that. Some of them are just smart enough to do that so that his linebacker can run through that hole and make the tackle. So that's where you would get holding on a defensive line.
Okay. Now, a part two to that is, and I'm old school football player, so your defensive linemen and even linebackers to that degree were taught to kind of get inside your person that you engage with, and you read behind the backfield, and then you throw that person to the left or the right, whichever is going to give you quicker access to the point of the ball. Would that be considered holding today?
No, that's just one-on-one,
Okay.
Most of your holding will come up when the guy is trying to grab another player, When they're one-on-one and it's, or if they're one-on-one and that player is trying to get away from you, you could get a holding. Say the center is trying to go block the linebacker, and he's basically passing you up, and you hold on to him not to get to that linebacker. You could put yourself in a situation where you could have a defensive holding.
Okay. Now, on behalf of all defensive players, past, present, and future, I hope you guys consider that when offense decides they need to double team aggressive or powerful defensive player, and y'all start throwing that rag on them a little bit more often too.
It's one of the written rules that when you get a double team, we'll watch it, but we'll try to go to the one-on-one. Now, when we'll go back to that double team is if that defensive player breaks between them. If he breaks that double team, now you could get a grab or a hold or a trip or something because he was just that good.
Okay.
And we do have players that are that good,
No doubt.
A lot of times on a double team, you're giving up two to block one. So it's normally not a foul. It could still be a foul, but most of the time there's not a foul there.
Okay. I hear you kind of covering up for offense a little bit, but we're not going to get into that. That's okay.
Well, everybody comes up for offense now because that's what our fans in the stadium.
Well, I understand that, but you can't lift that championship without a good defense. But that's tomato, right? We're talking with Eddie Kelly right now, getting updated on rules of new factors for the fall 22 season. Just talked about the blocking, talked about defensive holding. Is there anything else we need to be on the lookout for, sir?
Well, the rest of them are not as big. It is one that would be interesting to our fans. And, of course, we all talk about targeting. And targeting is not going anywhere unless the kids stop. Basically, what can really cause a kid or a player to be ejected with targeting is that he's looking at the ground and doesn't have his head up. Now, we brought in a new rule this year where that if a player was called for targeting in the second half, not the first half, but the first half, he's basically going to eat it because he sets out the second half and he's okay for the next game unless he gets 3 of these during the season. And then that would cause him to be suspended for a game. And we did not get to that at all last year and hope we never do. If a player is ejected in the second half, third quarter or the fourth quarter, and replay and everybody says, yes, that's targeting, it might have been close, could have been iffy, but he's called for targeting and he's ejected, then that means he would have to sit out first and second quarter of the next game. We do have a panel that If the coach wants to appeal that, he can send it in to me. We'll send it in to the national coordinator and his committee, and then they will look at it and say, yes, that was targeting. The kid would have to sit out first half, or no, it was not. He's free to play the next game.
Okay.
And we didn't have that last year.
Okay. Now, here's something of concern for me, and I've seen it on all levels, quite honestly. And there could be an inadvertent graze of the helmet of a quarterback, more in particular. Is there anything being looked at to fine tune that? I mean, I understand you don't want any head contact or anything like that, but sometimes just inadvertently, just from the aggression of play, it was not intended to hit that area, but the quarterback or the target could have moved at the time of attack. But then there's targeting call. How is that being addressed?
Basically, replay officials and our on-field officials are being taught that if a defensive player has his head up, basically he's seeing what he's hitting, and if he'll turn his head out of there a little bit, or if he was in position to make a correct tackle, and now a guy lowers his helmet or whatever, then it's deemed as not targeted. We do not want to see a player using that helmet as a battering ram and punishing another player. That's when you get targeting, because now he's using the top of his helmet to punish that player. So, which is dangerous for him along with the player that he's hitting. So that's where we're going in replay now. Is if we get a good form tackle where his head is up, his eyes are up, and he's looking at what he's hitting, and they happen to have some helmet-to-helmet contact, then that's not deemed as targeting. But if he has his head down, he's looking at the ground, and he's using that helmet as a battering ram, then there's a good chance he's going to be called for targeting. And the deal is, if you're using that helmet that way, you don't necessarily have to hit the helmet to do it. If your head is down and you're using what we call the crown of the helmet into his body or into the pile, you could be charged with a targeting pile.
Very, very interesting, sir. So the game has evolved so tremendously, and I'm going to say this, it's being geared toward offensive. You just already alluded to it earlier that offense is what brings people to the games, and I understand it, sir. And it's all about the safety, and it's all about good, clean competition as well. So we do appreciate that, and we appreciate you for making yourself available. I know you have a busy schedule, especially this time of year, going to various camps and re-educating people on what the rule changes will be and getting your crews and stuff together. And I really, really thank you for taking time to join us today, sir.
Well, I appreciate it, Mike. Like I said, we love to keep the fans informed, and they can make those boos or those cheers in an educated manner.
Well, you're going to get some boos, man. You're going to get some boos.
Oh, it goes with the game.
Especially if it goes against the home team, right?
Most definitely.
This in the old infamous lines of Harlem Nights when he said, "Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal." Well, look, Brother Kelly, we want to give you some closing thoughts and comments at the time, sir. We wrap this segment up, and the floor is now yours.
Well, in the Southwestern Athletic Conference this season, we're looking for some very, very exciting games. All of our teams have improved immensely. We've got NFL-style coaches now with Hugh Jackson over at Grambling and Eddie Robinson Jr. at Alabama State. Of course, there's Dion from the league at Jackson, and Bubba McDowell at Prairie View. And then, of course, Coach Dooley moved over to Southern. So we have a lot of interesting games. Texas Southern University has got a great quarterback, and they're improving. Coach Dancy at Mississippi Valley is improving his program. Coach Maynard is still there at Alabama A&M. So it's going to be a very, very good season for us. And basically, with my officials, we want to call the big stuff and let them play.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you mentioned Jackson State and Deion Sanders. They just add Mike Zimmerman as part of their coaching staff, the former Minnesota Viking head coach. So as they say, the hits just keep on coming towards the Southwestern Athletic Conference, sir.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Well, we look forward to a fantastic fall football season. Look forward to the continued growth of the conference. And we look forward to more conversations like this with you, sir, in the very near future. He is Eddie Kelly, the head official of football for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince, reminding you guys that you can follow me on Twitter at The Mike Prince Show. The YouTube channel is the Open Mic Broadcast Network, and our website is obnradio.com. And don't forget, we are here with you each and every day, and we look forward to giving you more interviews like this in the very near future. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.